Recorded in Studio 158, beautiful Huntington, Massachusetts. This is Gateway News Network.
Welcome to a special edition of GNN. I'm Jeremy, and I'll be interviewing two individuals. One donated a kidney to the other to save his life, and are now good friends. Peter Del Masto decided to donate a kidney out of the kindness of his heart. The recipient, Henry Edwards, was lucky enough to finally have a new kidney after his kidney was taken by kidney disease. Peter, for the longest time, was tested to make sure that the kidney was flawless. The operation took place at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in New York City by surgeon Lloyd Batner on November 14th, just a little over a week before Thanksgiving. And months later, they are both here with us for more information on this truly amazing story. I'm here with a very special guest today. November 14, 2012, he was lucky enough to donate a kidney to a very special friend of his. We have Peter Del Masto and Henry with us today. How are you guys doing?
Good. We're excited to be here.
All right, good to hear. This is a couple questions for you guys. So Pete, why did you decide to donate a kidney?
Well, I got the initial thought to donate some years back when a basketball player by the name of Alonzo Mourning came down with kidney disease and needed a transplant. And I remember thinking that, to myself, you know what, maybe I could do that. It sounds like an interesting thing to do, help somebody out. And that's really the start of it. And then, about a year and a half ago, I received a random Facebook post from a Jewish woman from Brooklyn. She was looking to procure donors for people with kidney disease. And I remember responding and saying, I'm a typo, and I'm willing to try to donate, so you can throw my name into the hat. And I actually went through a couple of people before we ended up matching with Henry. What usually happens is it's a very tenuous kind of circumstance. A person may be eligible 1 minute, and then for some medical reason may be found to be ineligible. So they could be on the list and then suddenly taken off. And that happened a couple times with two prior gentlemen. Fortunately, ended up to be a match for Henry, and I went through the testing, and that's kind of how that started.
Are there any certain eligibility requirements to become a kidney donor?
So I had to go down to Columbia Presbyterian for 2 days of really strenuous testing, physical tests, CAT scans and stress tests on treadmills. And I also had to undergo some pretty severe, intense psychological testing. And I was very fortunate to have passed all of those tests to become eligible.
So, so how is it that you and Henry just became a match? Certain story behind that?
Well, you might be able to answer that better than I can.
Well, first of all, what we should say about this is that it's very difficult to make something like this happen. Almost virtually impossible. As we've discussed, there are 100,000 people in this country officially waiting for kidney. And 4,000 people die a year waiting. And of the people who decide to give a kidney to a stranger, only 250 people in the entire country do this. Mr. DeMasto is one of those 250. Now, I was told at the hospital that to obtain a kidney as healthy as Mr. DeMasto's kidney would take 7 years on the list. And we did it in about 4.5 months.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
And fate intervened. There's no explanation for this. It was one of those remarkable things. Almost never happens. Never happens. And luckily, one of the things people do is use Facebook. And Facebook gets people together. But the woman who matched us had tried for 7 years to do it on Facebook. We're the only time she was able to do it.
Right.
Absolutely. So we didn't choose each other. It happened.
It just kind of happened.
It's a great, wonderful, extraordinary mystery. But he's one of 250 people that have decided this country to save his country's life, and he saved mine.
It's very miraculous that it was
Miraculous.
able to happen. Yeah.
Miraculous.
But anyways, Pete, can you like describe what happened like during the operation?
Well, fortunately, I was unconscious, but and to me, the operation lasted about 5 seconds because when they put the mask on you and then you're out, and then the next thing you know, they're poking you to wake you up. So for me, it was like 5 seconds. In reality, the operation lasts 4 hours. The surgery was a laparoscopic nephrectomy. So they don't do the old way of slicing you open with a long incision. What they do is they more or less poke holes in your abdomen, and they insert instruments so that they can do everything with these instruments. There's like one instrument has a camera on it, and then there's one that can cauterize and cut and do all those things. And your stomach is distended with gas, so it makes it easier to work in that environment. And what they did is they do an incision right below my navel, and once the kidney is detached and ready to be removed, it's actually placed into a little bag, and the surgeon will actually reach in through the incision, take that kidney, and just pull it right out. And then they sew you back up, and then that kidney goes over to Henry's operating room, which adjoined mine, and they insert that.
Like, was
kidney
there
there.
like any ice involved? Like, they have to put it in ice, or was it kind of just like?
Oh, I'm sure
grab the
that
kidney?
probably, yeah, there's probably a tray with ice and stuff to keep it viable. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure that's, what they do. But fortunately, usually when they do that, operating rooms are adjacent to one another, so it's not like they have to go a long way.
Right.
You have to go from my operating room to his. And it's a fascinating experience when you kind of research it. How you got two teams of surgeons and such who are just they've done this so often that they have it down to a science, so they can just take care of my end and then move that kidney into the operating room, and then they take care of Henry. So yeah, it's a fascinating kind of process.
Like, were you scared like before everything happened? With the,
I got to tell you, when I really did the commitment part, and I really felt like I was going to do this, I had one night where I woke up and I said, I was like real anxious, and I remember thinking, do you really think you're going to want to do this? This is pretty intensive stuff, and that lasted for about 10 seconds. And after that, I had no reservations. One of the main reasons that I was really quite content to do it, I discovered that the surgeon who was going to do my operation, Dr. Lloyd Ratner, had pioneered laparoscopic nephrectomies. He did the first one in 1995, and he had done 1,000 after that.
Yeah.
So I felt like, this guy kind of knows what he's doing. I had complete and total faith in the system, in the doctors and the teams. And right up to the moment where I walked into the operating room and got on that gurney, I did not have any concern about negative after effects.
like, how'd you feel after the surgery?
I felt like I had major surgery, put it that way.
painful?
Well, you know what it is? It's like, first of all, your stomach is distended from the gas. And they're poking around with all those rods and things in there, and they're snipping and cutting and cauterizing. So even though I was on some pain medication, I was in some discomfort. But it's not the kind of a pain that you would associate with other injuries, because you know that what you've gone through is going to help somebody live longer. So you just handle that pain. You don't even think about it. And obviously what it was like for me when I got home. I was
Yeah.
pretty rough shape. Your sister had to kind of walk me around so I wouldn't fall over. And you were good about being the man of the house and lifting and moving stuff.
Yeah, you couldn't do anything.
And I wasn't allowed to do anything. I couldn't lift anything, for several weeks. And, I was actually out of school for 6 weeks recovering, and I needed every one of those 6 weeks to do that. But no regrets.
Like, any dietary or physical restrictions you had after the surgery?
None. That's the beauty of it, and this is one of the reasons that Henry and I are doing this. We want people to know that it's a fairly safe procedure. There could always be things that pop up, that have to be addressed. But it's actually a fairly commonplace operation to have a living donor donate a kidney to somebody. And so, like I say, no regrets, just happy to do it, no restrictions whatsoever.
Like, how do you feel now that it's all over and we have Henry here with us? And
Oh, it's tremendous. One of the things that they tell you when you're going through the psych portion of the testing, they tell you that it's very possible that your recipient may not want to meet you. So you have to be. So they ask you what your expectations are, and I just said, the only expectation I have is that the surgery goes well for both of us, and yeah, I would like to meet the person who's got my kidney just to know that he's doing okay.
Yes.
But in some cases, donor and recipient may never meet. So it just depends on the people involved. Unfortunately, Henry and I wanted to meet each other, and we have this incredible bond now that it's made it worthwhile. And as I told Henry earlier, it exceeded all of my expectations.
So
Yeah.
everything worked out very well.
Yes.
Henry, what do you do for a living?
I'm a writer. I've been a writer. I used to be a teacher a long time ago, and now I develop educational materials, but I've done a lot of writing. I've published 6 books. I've written movies. I've written television.
Very
Yeah, I have a whole endless list of things that I've written, and I'm still doing it.
Very interesting to know. I never knew that.
It's not interesting to sit in the house all day and type,
Just letting you.
especially when you come to the Berkshires, which is so beautiful.
Yeah.
You want to get outdoors and have to set up a table on your deck.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Except now I can't go in the sun.
Well, we got the umbrella. We got you covered. We're good.
Because in order to maintain the kidney, you take a medication that suppresses the immune system. So you have no immunity to infection. So you have to be extraordinarily careful every day of your life about not catching anything, not having people sneeze at you, hand sanitizer all the time, make sure you don't put anything in your mouth that has germs on it. And since the immune system fights cancer, you're very susceptible to especially the skin cancer.
Yeah, but
Be careful.
like if your immune system, like if you stopped taking the medication, your immune system came back fully functional, it would project the kidney.
Yes, and we've discussed this for the recipient. There were a couple of things that were very interesting. I was told before that the operation that Pete had is much more severe than the one I was going to have. That removing the kidney is harder than attaching it. Because essentially, even though mine took 5 hours, what they simply had to do was attach it to an artery and a vein. That's essentially the process. Whereas doing the skillful surgery takes to get it out requires more work.
I didn't know that. I thought
Yes.
it was
Then you
the
have to-
opposite.
Yes,
You have
more
to
work.
remove the
So-
artery from the
Yeah,
kidney.
it's not, it doesn't have to be the same artery because they do not remove the kidney, your 2 kidneys that aren't functioning. They put it someplace else.
Yeah.
And they have, and even though the kidneys are in the back, my surgery was right over here in front, right near the abdomen. So they use an artery and a vein someplace else. So I have these 2 non-functioning kidneys and one and Pete's.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I have 1 kidney and a space.
Yes.
They took my left kidney right here, so I don't know if you guys can get that, but that's the one they took out of me.
They put it in my right stomach.
Yes, and right before you go in, Dr. Radner comes over. He says, "Okay, we're going to take your left kidney out, and I have to mark it." So he gets a pen, which is required
Yes.
now. You have to mark
And say
whatever's
right
coming
there.
out.
That's right.
So he had to write left for the left kidney, and that's the one they ended up taking.
So is there any certain reason why you needed a kidney, or?
Oh, I had what is called end-stage kidney disease, which is the very last stage, and that means the kidneys essentially stop functioning. When they stop functioning, you have to undergo dialysis, which is a really difficult process. That's most people's lives revolve around it. It's 5 hours a night, 3 times a week, and you can't miss it. And they attach needles into your veins and wash your blood because the kidneys have stopped working. It's an artificial kidney machine. Not anywhere as effective as a kidney, but it keeps you alive. And when I went to the hospital, my oxygen rate was down to 25%. And it was 92% the minute his kidney was put in me. Yes.
Some rapid results. So it's good to hear. What are eligibility requirements to become a recipient?
Well, he knows about being a recipient as opposed to donor. Well, they want to make sure it works. Because unfortunately, in the first 3 months, 4 out of 5 people have to go back to the hospital because the body is rejecting. And they have to give them an enormous amount of medication to keep the kidney alive because the body doesn't want it. And then the next 3 months, it's down to 1 out of 5. So they want the most healthy people possible. They want the healthiest kidney from the donor. They want the recipient to be healthy enough to survive and prosper from it. And in my case, up until the last minute, they were very worried about me because I had lung problems and heart problems. And they thought I was so on the road to dying from kidney disease, they would save my life by doing this. This is the last day. But afterwards, I would have a horrible time. And so far, it's been fine, so I don't want, who knows what's going to happen. But we've had a very good 6 months.
Yeah.
Terrific 6 months.
6 months as of the 14th, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're closing in.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear. Everything's working out very well.
What do you make of all of this?
What I make of all it, well, at first I honestly thought that Pete was bluffing about it. I didn't think he was actually gonna do it. But then he comes on, he's got all these jars of liquids, and I have to drink this for 24 hours and make sure I have to clear everything out. And I was like, oh, so you're really going through this now? And a couple months later, the surgery went through. I think at my dad's, but then he ended up coming back, and he was like a vegetable. He couldn't do anything. He was sitting on the couch and.
Yeah, suffice to say, I didn't have a huge supply of energy, put it that way. Yeah.
It's a huge thing your body has to go through when you're missing an organ.
It's an extraordinary commitment. In terms of individuals, can you think of a more extraordinary commitment to give a piece of yourself that's a vital part of you to a stranger? It's one of the amazing things.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't like all this praise, but he is by all our terms a hero.
Yeah, yeah.
It's I don't look at it that way.
I know.
To simplify it, it's I had 2 kidneys, and I thought I was in pretty good health, which I was, and I knew I could get by on 1 kidney. So to me, it wasn't that big of a sacrifice because as long as I got 1 kidney left, and in that 1 kidney, what's interesting about the kidney that you have left, it'll adjust its size according to your metabolism, so it actually grows to meet that metabolism.
And evolution gave us 2 kidneys so that if one didn't work, the other could do the work of 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, it was the brilliance of evolution.
Right. But again, I guess there's certain properties which are useful in the liver, where if you get rid of part of the liver, it's able to regenerate itself.
Absolutely right.
Pretty sure that throughout a couple years, maybe 10, 20 years maybe, they'll be able to find the gene specifically of the liver, and we'll be able to possibly
Grow it in the lab.
grow it in a lab or use special genetics and make clones of people, and use the kidneys from the clones from an early stage and be able to grow those in a lab and be able to use those.
Liver is much harder to receive, to have a liver that you can have transplanted. Kidneys are almost impossible. Livers are virtually impossible. And I told Pete, when I had to go back to the hospital after I got home every 3 days to make sure it was working, 1,000 people pass through a week who've had transplants. We all wear masks, and we say, what'd you get? I got a liver, I got a heart, I got a lung, I got
Stomach.
a kidney, I
Yeah.
got stomach. This is the miracle of medicine in the 21st century.
Yeah.
I mean, people's lives are being saved.
Yeah, I mean, like 100 years ago, we wouldn't really be able to do anything, but now with all the technology and scientific advantages that we have, we're able to now save people's lives and find all these cures for diseases.
So I think if we have a shared message, it's to have the bravery and courage to donate if you're healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Because afterwards, after 6 weeks, you are up and moving, and you get through it, and you know you've saved a life. And how many people can say that?
Yeah, they tell you again. They explain everything to you. They don't leave anything out. And one of the things Dr. Ratner told me was that the fatality rate for a kidney donor during the operation is 0.025%, which is pretty low.
That's very low.
So it's a relatively safe procedure. It's becoming more common, as I said. And our shared message again is that really people should really consider doing it. I have no regrets. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Well, you get the bragging rights for saying I saved the person's life, so.
Well, I guess you could say bragging, but yeah, you know what? It feels good that because I know how sick Henry was.
Yeah.
And when I look at him today, that feels good. You know what? It feels good.
I'm sure it feels good.
And I could have been rotten, he'd still feel good.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Live longer. You gotta love that. Be able to live longer and be able to just live.
Yeah.
And we're all glad it's happened.
They told me the operation was going to be snap.
Oh, really?
Mine, yes. They said the operation's a snap. This man's kidney is terrific. We know exactly what we're doing. Afterwards, you're going to have nothing but trouble. This is why I'm still nervous about it.
No, interesting.
They scared me beyond belief.
I do insist that the success of this operation has to do with my Polish-Italian heritage. I think a Polish-Italian kidney is just a good, strong kidney,
Absolutely true.
So.
And if you know what a Jewish diet's like, you know why I need
right.
one.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So.
Like, were you nervous about the surgery?
No, I listen, everyone is individual. I treated it, I must say, as a lark. Everyone around me was incredibly panicked and nervous. I was surrounded by very fearful and upset people. When it happened, I didn't take it seriously. I thought it's impossible. Statistically, it's never going to happen. And they kept moving forward and making a date to do it. And I was joking around about it. Well, November 16th, come visit me in the hospital. And then I went to the hospital and I failed all the pre-op tests. I failed heart and lungs.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. They were, oh my God, look at the results. And I kept coming back, and they were incredibly nervous because after all this, they want to make sure it's going to work. Their reputation depends on making this work so that they can do more. And they want to prove to the people that foundations that give them money and all of this that they're going to do it. So they're very invested, and they're a wonderful hospital, and the doctors wonderful.
They were great.
But up until the end, when I didn't think it was going to happen because I was too sick, and you have to be strong enough to do it. And they told me essentially that it was a Monday night before the Wednesday. That Monday night at 4:30, 5 o'clock at night, they said, we're going to do it because you're in such trouble. We're going to save your life, but you're going to have nothing but trouble. And then I said, fine, I'll go do it. And I was so crazy by then, they changed the time of the surgery. And it was supposed to be 11. They moved to 6:30 in the morning. Well, I took a sleeping pill.
Nobody told me either.
So I overslept getting there. And the police were called and the fire department, and they figured what was going on. The hospital kept calling. I got on the phone. I said, you can't put it in until I get there. So just calm down. And I got there, and the minute I got there, they ripped off my clothes, threw the gown on me, and rushed me in. They had a kidney waiting.
Yeah, it was the same thing with me. We were supposed to be at 11 o'clock, and then we find out it's 6:30. So,
and I was supposed to be 11, and they wanted me right after you. But
and again, they literally once they get you in, they're ready to go. So they're doing the little pre-op stuff to get you into your clothes.
He had counseling before, which you should have because it is a real commitment. And I had too, and I still once a month see the psychiatrist because there are people who are transplanted and then they go back to the lives they had. Their whole lives are about saving the kidney, getting a kidney. Then they go back to their own problems. And people occasionally do get depressed, which is very interesting because human nature is very interesting. And they said, do you want to meet him? I said, I do not want to meet the donor. I don't want to go in and worry about him and me. I didn't want to have, how are you doing on my conscience as I went in. I said, no, I just wanted to work. And the first thing I said when I got out is, how's the donor?
Yeah, that was the same thing. How's the recipient?
Right.
Absolutely.
And we met 2 days later. We had a hilarious meeting.
Yeah.
We took pictures.
Yeah, that was great. It was great.
And he's come to visit me, and I'm here to visit him.
Yeah.
And we're attached to the kidney for life.
Yeah.
It's very mystical. It is a mystical experience. How many people can say, he saved my life? How many people can say that about anybody?
Definitely not a lot of people that can just say, like, you saved somebody's life or somebody else saved my life.
It's virtually impossible. It's the first time I met anyone who saved someone's life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to have people run out of a burning building with someone, it's like that. Yes.
Exactly.
Like, how do you feel now that everything's over and we're here? And
I feel thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to know Pete and his family. And I feel I'm a member of this family. Didn't I move in? I just
right.
was at home. Yes.
That's right.
It was like coming home. And it's a little different coming to New York.
Yeah, I mean, his place is concrete and steel. Our place is, birds and turkeys and leaves on the trees and quiet.
Green, quiet.
Yeah.
I feel obligated, in the best sense of the word, to stay healthy and do well. That's my way of saying thank you to someone who did this and the other people in my life. I've never been surrounded by such goodness in my entire life from people I didn't know.
Yeah.
Never. And it teaches you something about this. And they call donors like Pete altruistic donors, meaning that, like, they just do something out of the goodness of their hearts. I've discovered how much goodness there is in the world. It's late in life to get this message with this kind of power.
Yeah. Like, do you take any medications, like, to keep? Well, I can imagine you
I
would.
would have brought it in. We're going to spend a half hour watching me swallow pills. It's about now 10 or 11 in the morning and about 9 at night.
What was it initially after?
Well, they just took away the liquids. Yeah, I don't have to do any of that 3 times a day for the first 3 months. And the medications are really designed to protect you from amazing things. One pill I take fights leprosy because you're so susceptible to strange viruses that even though you've never met a leper in Manhattan, who knows what's out there?
Yeah.
Yes, what viruses are floating around. It's quite extraordinary. But you swallow them and bounce around, People have heart trouble, they take heart medication. They just don't take this many.
Yeah.
I had high blood pressure and it went away immediately after this because the kidneys regulate blood pressure.
Oh, I didn't know about
Much healthier as a result, in every way, shape, and form. And, my weight loss, I went in at 180 something, came out 167. They pumped about 13 pounds of water out of me during that surgery because the kidneys weren't working, nothing was being flushed out.
Okay.
So it made me thin, no blood pressure. I look 10 years younger.
Yeah.
A good way to lose weight.
And I just dropped 10 pounds. So
10 pounds.
yeah,
You kept it off?
yeah.
Great. It's been a heavy kidney then. Is like, are there any other milestones as far as the surgery goes that have been reached?
Meaning?
Like a 6-month milestone, anything after
This-
that?
No, the first year, people who get through the first year without a problem, and George Wolfe, who directed Lucky Guy, which sat in a rehearsal in New York, is about 5 or 6 years. And the person that owns the club that Joan Rivers works at is about a year now. After a year, you forget it. It becomes part of you, just out and about. It's out of your mind. So you've got to get to a year, but the 6-month deadline is very important. And even though I didn't even reach 6 months, I was told that statistically I was out of the danger zone. I don't feel it, but I was told that.
You're the danger zone, you're in the danger zone regardless of how you feel. But everyone's happy, you're both safe, both healthy, and it's just great that this has happened.
Have you ever heard a story like this before?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
This is the first.
Yeah, I'm just glad we had the opportunity to share our story and that other people will.
And to encourage people
Yes.
to think that if you can do it, you should do it.
It's very doable.
It's very,
Very
doable.
doable.
Yes. And this should be the proof of it.
Yeah.
There should be enough proof to be able to get people to donate more.
Yeah.
Fabulous teacher in the Birches rescues a crazy person in Manhattan.
That's the headline.
Grateful for having you guys here and everything, having this happen.
Great. But like I say, glad to be here. Thanks
Pleasure.
for taking that time to let
You're all
us share our
terrific.
story.